don't even try it. You're not going to steal your sister's credit, Mom shouted, her voice ringing through the living room. I sat frozen, my face burning with frustration and disbelief. It was Christmas Eve at my parents' house, just me, my sister Olivia, who was out getting candy, our parents, and my cousin Nina. The Christmas tree twinkled, the scent of pine and cinnamon filled the air, but none of it could mask the suffocating weight of their judgment pressing down on me. My name is Sophie. I'm 28 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the afterthought in my own family. Olivia, the golden child, could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. Meanwhile, I couldn't take a breath without being criticized. But this time, it wasn't just about their usual favoritism, it was about the truth. Since July, I had been quietly sending my parents money every month to help with their bills. I never made a big deal out of it, I just wanted to help. But somehow, Olivia had taken all the credit, and my parents had believed her without question. When I finally tried to set the record straight, my mom shut me down like I was some attention-seeking liar. I felt my throat tighten, the words I wanted to scream trapped inside me. Then, Nina, who had been sitting silently in the corner, finally spoke up. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the tension like a blade. "Hold on a second," she said, eyes narrowing. "Have you even seen proof that Olivia's been sending the money? Do you have any receipts? Bank statements?" My parents looked at her like she had lost her mind. My dad waved a dismissive hand. "Olivia wouldn't lie about something like that. She's always been the responsible one." Responsible. The word stung like a slap. I had spent the last 6 months stretching every dollar, skipping dinners with friends, saying no to things I really wanted, all to help them. But no matter how much I sacrificed, Olivia always managed to swoop in and make me look like the selfish one. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, the front door swung open. Olivia strolled in, a bag of candy swinging from her hand, completely oblivious to the firestorm she had walked into. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice light and cheerful, as if she hadn't just stepped into the middle of a war. Her eyes flickered between Mom's furious expression and my clenched fists, and in an instant, she put on her innocent act, tilting her head like she had no clue what was happening. "You need to explain to your sister," Mom said, her fingers shaking as she pointed at me. "She's trying to claim she's been the one helping us financially when we all know it's been you." For a split second, Olivia hesitated. Her eyes darted between me and Nina, but then she slipped effortlessly back into her well-practiced role. She let out a soft, airy laugh and set the candy on the counter. "Oh, Mom," she said sweetly, brushing a hand over her chest like she was touched by the very idea. "I think Sophie just misunderstood." She turned to me, her face full of mock concern. "I've been handling this for months now. I didn't want to burden you with it." I stared at her, my hands shaking from the sheer audacity of her words. "Misunderstood?" I repeated, my voice barely steady. "I've been sending them money every single month since July, and you knew that. Don't you dare act like this is just some mix-up." Nina crossed her arms, her gaze locking onto Olivia like a predator eyeing its prey. "Yeah, Olivia, why exactly have you been so quiet about this? Care to explain?" For the first time, Olivia's flawless performance cracked, just for a second. But she recovered quickly, flipping her hair over her shoulder as if none of this fazed her. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "I've been helping out because, unlike you, I actually care about Mom and Dad's well-being." That was it. Something inside me snapped. "Are you kidding me right now?" I shot back, pushing to my feet so fast that my chair scraped loudly against the floor. "You've let them believe a lie for months, Olivia. You knew I was the one sending the money, but you just sat there, soaking up the praise. Why? So you could play the hero?" Nina stepped in before the argument could spiral any further. "Hold on," she interjected, raising a hand like a referee calling for a timeout. "There's a simple way to settle this. Olivia, did you ever actually show them proof? Bank statements, screenshots, anything?" A flicker of unease crossed my parents' faces. My mom hesitated before admitting, well, no, but we didn't think we needed to. Olivia said she was handling it. Olivia spun toward Nina, her once polished smile replaced with a cold glare. You're out of your depth, Nina, she snapped, her voice sharp with irritation. This is family business, and frankly, you have no idea what you're talking about. Nina didn't so much as flinch. Oh, I think I know enough, she shot back, her tone like ice. I've watched you lap up all the praise for something you didn't even do, Olivia. You've been lying to them, and you know it. A bitter laugh escaped Olivia as she shook her head. You're unbelievable, she muttered, yanking out her phone. Fine. You want proof? Here. She scrolled through her files, then held the screen up for my parents to see. Look. These are the receipts for the transfers I've been making every month, right on schedule. My mom's expression softened as she glanced at the PDFs, but I wasn't buying it. My pulse pounded as I stepped closer. Let me see that, I demanded, snatching the phone from her grasp before she could protest. The receipts looked legitimate, her name, the amounts, even transaction IDs. But something felt off. I turned to Nina, who leaned in beside me, scanning the screen. And then it clicked. This is fake, I burst out, my voice slicing through the air like a whip. The room went utterly silent, but I couldn't stop now. You forged these, Olivia. Don't act like you've been sending them money when you haven't sent a single cent. My chest heaved, my vision blurred with fury. I dared her to deny it. For the first time, Nina hesitated. The fire she had just moments ago dimmed slightly as she took a small step back. I don't know, she mumbled, suddenly unsure. Maybe I overstepped. She avoided Olivia's glare, clearly unwilling to escalate things further. Meanwhile, Olivia just smirked, holding her phone close like it was some kind of shield. Fine, I snapped, yanking out my own phone. You want proof? I'll show you my bank statements right now. My hands trembled as I opened my banking app, only for the screen to freeze. No. I tapped again, harder this time. Nothing. You've got to be kidding me, I muttered under my breath, frantically swiping and restarting the app. Still, it refused to load. Come on, I hissed, panic clawing at my throat. My stomach twisted. Not now. Olivia crossed her arms, her smirk widening. How convenient, she drawled, voice dripping with mockery. The one time you actually need to prove something, and, oops, your phone mysteriously doesn't work. Sure. That sounds totally believable. Sophie, enough, my dad's voice thundered, echoing through the room. He stood, his towering presence making me feel even smaller. You've humiliated yourself enough. If you can't back up your accusations, you owe your sister an apology right now. His tone was sharp, absolute. And if you refuse, you can pack your things and leave. I won't let you ruin Christmas over your jealousy. I stood frozen, every pair of eyes in the room drilling into me. Apologize for what? I snapped, my voice cracking under the weight of it all. For telling the truth? For being tired of living in her shadow? Dad didn't budge. He simply pointed toward the door. You have 5 minutes to decide. I didn't need them. Without another word, I grabbed my coat and stormed out, slamming the door behind me. The freezing air hit me like a wall, but it wasn't nearly as harsh as the realization that I no longer belonged in that house. Tears blurred my vision as I walked to my car, my chest tightening with every breath. Christmas was supposed to be about family, but all I felt was how little I mattered in mine. I drove without direction, the dark road stretching endlessly ahead of me. The glow of Christmas lights along the streets blurred through my tears, turning the world into a distorted haze. My mind raced, replaying the confrontation over and over. How could Olivia do this? How could my parents believe her without hesitation? I didn't even realize where I was headed until I pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour coffee shop. The fluorescent lights inside seemed jarringly bright against the stillness of the night. Sliding into a booth, I pulled out my phone, my hands still trembling with frustration and humiliation. I opened my banking app, needing proof, something to fight back with. But the screen only flashed an infuriating message. We're experiencing a major technical issue. All services, including ATMs, are temporarily unavailable. We're working to resolve this as soon as possible. Thank you for your patience. Patience. I had none left. I refreshed the app again and again, as if sheer determination could force it to work. But it was useless. Of course, on the one night I needed answers the most, the universe decided to turn against me. An hour passed. Empty coffee cups littered the table as I sat, still staring at my screen, lost in my thoughts. Then, a notification appeared. It was Nina. Hey, are you okay? I've been thinking, and if you need a place to crash, my door's open. I don't know what to believe right now, but you've always been honest with me. Let me know. For the first time that night, I exhaled a shaky breath. She wasn't fully convinced, but at least she wasn't against me. That meant something. My parents lived in one of those small towns where gossip spread faster than wildfire. I had only come home for the holidays, hoping for a quiet Christmas. Instead, I found myself driving down empty streets toward Nina's house, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing holding me together. When I pulled into her driveway, she was already waiting at the door, wrapped in a blanket, a mug of tea cradled in her hands. Come inside, she said softly, her expression a mixture of concern and uncertainty. I stepped through the doorway, and she didn't press me for answers. She simply handed me the tea and led me to the couch. Finally, I let out the breath I'd been holding since I walked out of my parents' house. I'm not lying, Nina, I said after a long silence, my voice cracking despite my efforts to stay composed. I swear to you, I've been sending them money every month since July. Olivia knew, and she let them believe it was her. Those receipts she showed them? They're fake. I know they are. Nina studied me for a moment before nodding slowly. I believe you, she said hesitantly. But you have to admit, without proof, it doesn't look great. Especially with the bank system down, it's like the perfect storm. I know, I whispered, my frustration simmering just beneath the surface. But tomorrow, if the system is back up, I'll get the proof. And I refuse to set foot in that house for Christmas Day unless I can prove Olivia's been lying. Nina leaned back, looking thoughtful. Everyone's going to be there tomorrow, she said quietly. Your parents, Olivia, the whole family. If you walk in with evidence, there's no way she can talk her way out of it. Exactly, I said firmly. I'm done letting her twist things to make me look like the bad guy. A small, encouraging smile crossed Nina's lips. Well, you can stay here as long as you need. And tomorrow, let's hope the bank system is back up. The next morning, for the first time in days, I woke up feeling a sliver of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the universe had finally decided to cut me a break. I reached for my phone, heart pounding, and opened the bank app. My stomach dropped. The same dreaded message stared back at me, we're still experiencing a major technical issue. Services remain unavailable. Thank you for your patience. I groaned, running a hand through my messy hair. Still down, I muttered, tossing the phone onto the bedside table. For a moment, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing for alternatives. How am I supposed to prove anything without access to my account? A soft knock on the door pulled me from my thoughts. Nina peeked in, holding 2 steaming mugs of coffee. But as soon as she saw my face, her expression fell. Still nothing? I shook my head, taking the mug from her. Nothing. I don't know what to do, Nina. If I walk in there with just my word against Olivia's, I might as well not even bother. They'll never believe me. She sat beside me, tucking her legs beneath her. There has to be another way, she murmured, deep in thought. Can you call your bank? Maybe they can verify the transfers over the phone? I considered it, but the answer was already clear. Even if I did, my parents aren't going to just sit there and listen to me make a phone call. They'll dismiss it as another excuse. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Besides, it's Christmas Day. Even if I could go in person, all the bank branches are closed. Still, I gave it a shot. I dialed the bank's customer service line, gripping my phone tightly as the call rang. But all I got was a robotic voice. "We are experiencing high call volumes due to a technical issue. Please try again later." I hung up, slamming my phone down onto the table. This is impossible. Everyone's trying to call for the same reason, and now I'm completely stuck. "You'll think of something," Nina said, but I could hear the doubt creeping into her voice. I sat at Nina's kitchen table, staring blankly at my coffee cup, my mind spiraling. Every possible option felt like a dead end. "There has to be a way," I muttered, more to myself than to Nina. She was scrolling through her phone when she suddenly paused, her eyes widening slightly. "Wait a second," she said, turning the screen toward me. "What about an email confirmation? If you made those payments online, there has to be a record somewhere, right?" For the first time that morning, I felt my pulse quicken with something other than dread. An email confirmation. Olivia had been banking on the fact that I couldn't access my account in real time. But had she thought about this? For what felt like the 100th time, I picked up my phone, scrolling aimlessly through apps and emails, desperate for any kind of inspiration. And then it hit me, the emails. Every time I made a transfer to my parents, I received an automatic confirmation email from the bank. Those emails weren't tied to the app or the bank's current technical issues. They existed independently, sitting there in my inbox, untouched. My fingers fumbled as I hurriedly searched my email. My heart pounded as I scrolled past spam and promotions. There. My breath caught in my throat. Clear as day, neatly lined up from July through December, were my monthly bank confirmations, each showing the exact amounts I had sent and the same account numbers linked to my parents. "Nina!" I practically shouted, spinning my phone around so she could see. "Look at this. The emails, they're all here. This is the proof I needed." A mix of relief and fierce determination surged through me. Nina's eyes scanned the emails, and a triumphant grin spread across her face. "You've got her now," she said, her voice steady and certain. "There's no way Olivia can talk her way out of this." I nodded, my resolve solidifying. "I'm going to that house, but I'm bringing this with me. If she even tries to deny it, I'll show them the emails right then and there." For the first time in hours, I felt like I had the upper hand. Olivia's lies were on the verge of crumbling, and this time I wouldn't let her slither her way out of it. As I stared at the email confirmations, a wave of relief washed over me, quickly followed by a twinge of embarrassment. How had I not thought of this sooner? It was so obvious. But then again, I hadn't been thinking straight since last night. The fight, the accusations, the sheer humiliation of being called a liar in front of my own family, it had all been too much. My mind had been spinning out of control, just trying to keep up. "God," I muttered, shaking my head at myself. "I feel like an idiot for not checking my email sooner. It's been sitting there this whole time." Nina reached over, giving my arm a reassuring squeeze. "Don't beat yourself up," she said softly. "You've been through a lot in the past 24 hours. It's no wonder you didn't think of it right away. What matters is that you have it now." Her words soothed some of the embarrassment, though a small part of me still felt ridiculous. I inhaled deeply, forcing myself to focus. "Okay," I said, straightening up. "I have the proof. I'm going over there, and I'm setting the record straight. If they still don't believe me after this, that's on them." Nina nodded, her expression resolute. "I'm with you, Sophie. Let's go show them the truth." As I pulled into my parents' driveway, I gripped the steering wheel, inhaling sharply before stepping out. The sight of the house, adorned with twinkling Christmas lights and a cheerful wreath hanging on the door, felt almost mocking. This wasn't a visit for the holidays. This was a reckoning. Nina gave me a small nod of encouragement as we walked up to the front door. My pulse pounded in my ears as I knocked, bracing myself for whatever was about to come. The door swung open. My mom stood there, her face pinched with disapproval. Her eyes flickered with something unreadable, anger, disappointment, maybe both. So, she said coldly, arms crossing over her chest. You finally decided to come back. Her tone was sharp enough to make me flinch. Behind her, Olivia leaned casually against the wall, smirking. Did you come to apologize, Sophie? She asked, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. Further back, my dad stood with his arms crossed, his expression hard, as if he was debating whether to slam the door in my face. I just want to celebrate Christmas with the family, I said softly, forcing an apologetic tone into my voice. I don't want any more drama. My mom narrowed her eyes but eventually stepped aside to let me in. Olivia let out a quiet snort as I passed her, muttering just loud enough for me to hear, "Took you long enough to come crawling back." I clenched my fist but kept my expression neutral. Let her believe I had given up. Let them all think I was here to grovel and move on. I played the part, offering faint smiles and staying in the background as the house slowly filled with relatives, cousins, aunts, uncles. They greeted me warmly, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. As dinner approached, my pulse quickened. I knew Olivia wouldn't be able to resist turning the moment into her own personal spotlight. It was only a matter of time before she twisted last night's events in her favor, portraying herself as the victim and me as the villain. All I had to do was wait, and be ready. It didn't take long. As we settled around the table, passing dishes and making polite conversation, Olivia cleared her throat with theatrical flair. Well, she began, her smirk barely concealed, I think we need to address the elephant in the room. The table fell silent. Every pair of eyes turned toward her. She leaned back, adopting a wounded expression. You know, last night was really difficult for me, she continued, her voice trembling just enough to sound genuine. I never imagined Sophie could stoop so low as to accuse me of lying. It was honestly heartbreaking. A wave of whispers rippled through the table. Some relatives shot me disapproving glances, while others sat frozen in stunned silence. Olivia pressed on. I've always done everything I could for this family, she said, layering on the emotion. Sending money every month to help mom and dad, never asking for anything in return. And then, to be publicly called a liar by my own sister? It was beyond hurtful. Her performance was flawless, her voice trembling just enough, her eyes glassy as if she were on the verge of tears. My parents nodded along, my mom in particular looking deeply wounded. You didn't deserve that, Olivia, she said firmly. We've always known you were the responsible one. Murmurs of agreement filled the room, and I felt the weight of judgment pressing in on me. My cousins and aunts watched me like I was the villain Olivia had painted me to be. Under the table, I gripped my phone, my heart hammering in my chest. I had anticipated this moment, prepared for it. But now that it was here, the sheer pressure was suffocating. I took a steady breath, willing my hands to stop shaking. As Olivia continued her act, pausing to dab at her eyes with a napkin, I saw my opportunity. That's enough, I said, my voice calm but resolute. The room went still. Every head turned toward me, some with surprise, others with outright scorn. I stood, gripping my phone tightly. You've had your chance to talk, Olivia. Now it's my turn. She scoffed, rolling her eyes. Oh, here we go again. I ignored her and turned to the table, addressing everyone instead. I've been sending mom and dad money every month since July. I don't make a big deal out of it, and I never asked for recognition. But when Olivia stood there last night and took credit for something she never did, I couldn't stay silent. And now, I can prove it. I held up my phone, displaying the email confirmations I had found. These are my receipts. They come directly from my bank. They show every transfer I made to mom and dad's account, with the exact dates and amounts. Olivia leaned back, crossing her arms, an infuriating smirk playing on her lips. Oh, please, she said dismissively. Anyone can fake an email these days. You really expect everyone to believe that? My receipts came straight from the app. They're not fake. I took a deep breath, my frustration reaching its peak. If you're so confident, let's compare the dates. Mom, Dad, did you even check the transfer dates on Olivia's receipts last night? Or did you just take her word for it? My parents exchanged uneasy glances. My dad shifted in his chair, scratching his chin. We didn't check, he admitted. We just assumed. And, we don't really use the bank app on our phones. You just assumed she was telling the truth? I pressed, my voice sharp. You trusted her without a second thought, but now you have the chance to see the truth for yourselves. I crossed my arms, staring Olivia down. Let's check your ATM statements. They show the account numbers for every deposit. You don't need a bank app for that. For the first time, Olivia's smirk faltered. But she recovered quickly, flipping her hair over her shoulder. Fine, she said through gritted teeth. Let them check. I have nothing to hide. My parents hesitated, visibly uncomfortable. It's Christmas, my mom said weakly. Do we really have to do this now? Yes, I said firmly, my voice leaving no room for argument. We do. Reluctantly, my dad grabbed his coat, and the three of us left for the nearest ATM. The cold night air stung against my skin as we drove in tense silence. The weight of everything hung in the air, unspoken but undeniable. At the ATM, my dad inserted his card and accessed the transaction history. Slowly, he scrolled through the deposits, matching them against the statements on my phone. My heart pounded as he clicked into the details of a July transfer. The bank account number flashed on the screen. It matched mine. He checked August. Then September. October. Every single one of them lined up exactly with the email confirmations I had shown them. My mom stared at the screen, her face pale, her voice barely above a whisper. It's Sophie's account, she said shakily. Every one of these transfers came from Sophie. Reality set in like a weight crashing down. Olivia had actually gone as far as faking her statements, just in case someone ever questioned her lies. The drive home was silent. My parents didn't say a word, their expressions a mix of shame and disbelief. Tension sat heavy in the car, pressing down on all of us. As we stepped inside, the murmurs of conversation in the living room came to an abrupt halt. All eyes turned toward us. The weight of the truth filled the air, thick and undeniable. The moment everyone had been waiting for had arrived, only this time, Olivia wouldn't be able to talk her way out of it. And then we saw her. Olivia stood near the door, frantically pulling on her coat, her fingers clutching her purse with a white-knuckled grip. Her face was flushed, and the usual smug confidence she wore like armor had vanished, replaced with sheer panic and guilt. Olivia, my dad said, his voice firm as he stepped forward. We checked the statements. Every single transfer came from Sophie's account. You've been lying to us. A ripple of shocked murmurs spread through the room. Relatives exchanged uncomfortable glances, some shifting in their seats, others suddenly preoccupied with their coats and purses. One by one, they started slipping toward the door, mumbling awkward goodbyes as they hurried out, clearly ashamed for having believed her. And just like that, Olivia's carefully built facade shattered. She let out a sharp, bitter laugh, tears spilling down her cheeks. Fine, she snapped, whirling around to face us. Yes, I lied, okay? Is that what you all want to hear? I lied. Her eyes locked onto mine, blazing with frustration. You told me back in July that you didn't want any attention for helping them, that you wanted to keep it quiet. So I thought, what's the harm in letting them think it was me? They already see me as the responsible one anyway. Her words hit me like a slap. I told you because I trusted you, I said, my voice raw with betrayal. I thought, for once, you'd actually support me. Instead, you used it to make yourself look good while I was left feeling invisible. Do you even understand how humiliating this has been for me? For a brief moment, Olivia's expression faltered, almost as if she regretted it. But just as quickly, the defensiveness returned. They were never going to believe you over me, Sophie, she said, her voice tight with resentment. I didn't think it would spiral like this. My mom took a hesitant step forward, her voice trembling. Why, Olivia? Why would you do this? We would have been grateful to either of you. There was no reason for this. But Olivia had nothing left to say. She grabbed her keys and stormed out, the front door slamming shut behind her. Silence settled over the room, thick and suffocating. The weight of her deception lingered in the air, pressing down on all of us. My parents turned to me, their faces etched with regret. Sophie, my dad said, his voice heavy with guilt. We owe you an apology, a huge one. We should have listened to you. We didn't, and that was our failure. We're so sorry. Tears streamed down my mom's face as she nodded. We've treated you unfairly for so long, and this was inexcusable. I don't know if we can ever truly make it up to you, but we will try. I promise. I stood there, absorbing their words, unsure how to process the emotion swirling inside me. A part of me wanted to forgive them, to finally let go of the years of resentment. But another part still ached from a lifetime of being overlooked, dismissed, unseen. I appreciate the apology, I said finally, my voice quiet but steady. But this doesn't erase everything. It's going to take time. They nodded solemnly, and for the first time I felt like they truly understood. The night ended quietly after that. The guests were gone, the house eerily still, and the three of us sat together in the lingering aftermath of the truth finally being laid bare. It wasn't the Christmas I had hoped for. But at least, for once, I wasn't the villain in my own story.